Hello, everybody. Welcome to EFA Playbook. A little bit of a new design going on. We're going in different directions. We're spicing it up today, Tebs. On today's show, we've got a nice gem series going on. We've got a sign-in center as well for some of the some big ones. There are some big ones this week, Tebs. Just the one that caught our eye that we've been alluding to for like the last 3 weeks, but it finally dropped. We'll get into that. But first and foremost, make sure to like, subscribe to the video, subscribe to the channel, send us your thoughts. Tabs, how are you?
I'm doing okay. It's been a busy weekend of British American football, as I'm not sure if you can see. If the resolution is high enough, the suntan has not gone well for me, the state of my face. But again, I'm happy to be here, ready to dive into the EFA and the gems. I think I've got some good ones.
Yeah,
I do. Of course I
of
do.
course you do. It's Tabs. You're never wrong. Never wrong, just early.
Hey,
Make
baby.
sure to stay with us today. Let's
Yeah.
get into the signings. The biggest sign this week was, of course, finally, Tebs. We don't have to keep going around with the allegedlys and the potentiallys and the other alleys at the end of sentences. Glenn Tonga is officially, last alley of the sentence, signed to the Nordic Storm for the 2026 season in EFA. Just feels like finally we can talk about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, the grass is green, the sky is blue, and Glenn Tunga is playing European American football this year. Again, one of the worst kept secrets. I mean, it was coming, it was due, and they dropped it. The only big update coming, obviously, is new number changing to number 7. Is Glenn going back to an old number? And let's be real, it's good. It's just good to see. Obviously, we all knew it was coming, but it's nice to have it. The ink has dried, so to speak.
Right. And then potentially, right, me and Glenn are friends. We're good friends. You've met Glenn, I've met Glenn. Everyone in the UK loves Glenn. He's basically a lock for comeback player of the year, assuming he plays a snap
Yeah.
coming back from Achilles injury. Is there any doubt, even a flick of doubt, that he might not have the same explosiveness? Because he's well known for his great jump cuts. He can hurdle people. He's a very explosive athlete. An Achilles injury has been known as a bit of a death knell for explosive players. Do you think that's going to be an issue?
I hope not, but I think we've got to be realistic here. You know, like Glenn's over the age of 30. He's tore his Achilles. Don't get me wrong. The rehab has been extensive. Obviously, just the week after, maybe even a few days after, he posted a video of himself in the gym, which I do appreciate. But I still feel as though even if there's a little bit of the agility taken off of Glenn, if there's some of the speed's taken off Glenn, I still think he is a massive threat. And with his signing, all the other running backs in like the top 10, all of them have to slide down one because Glenn Tunga is officially with the Nordic Storm.
Of course, he has taken rehab very seriously. He's an athlete that's dealt with injuries before, and he's just coming back from now. So he's not going to take it lightheartedly when of an injury of this size. Of course, Jadrian has a new number as well, so it's going to be interesting to see how those two do back together this year. We've seen them over the years with the Rhine Fire and with the Hamburg Sea Devils. Now, finally, hopefully for more than one game with the Nordic Storm. However, of course, we are just going to go a little bit deeper into the Nordic Storm. We've got our team needs up on the board now, following the signing of Glenn Tonga. I've got it as center, offensive guard, defensive tackle, defensive end, and outside linebacker. Interior offensive line is a bit of a concern. They have some good young players like Love Larson, who I'm excited to see develop. Raheem Christensen is not yet being re-signed. We think he's probably retired again, potentially. Probably he retired, came back. Maybe he's retired again. It's a big question mark. We'll see how they deal with that. Center and offensive guard is not a position that Europe has produced a ton of. We produce a lot of tackles, but not a ton of offensive guards and centers. It is Sweden and Denmark, though, so you'd expect to find big men in that area of the world, right?
That's exactly right. It's big guys who can move on. You could be in a worse place than up in the Nordics. I do think that as it goes, that when we get to kickoff versus the Prague Lions, I think that those linemen are going to be in place, and especially as we've had Glenn sign as well, they'll be opening up the doors for them. Obviously it's a team needs, but I'm personally not worried. I think the Nordic will be able to find their guys on the O line, and to be honest, the D line as well. I think for me the biggest one for the Nordic Storm is the outside linebacker position. I think the inside linebackers with Myron and Dyrendal, I think is good. I think that's good, but I do agree that outside linebacker is my sort of standout position that the Nordic Storm need to um, jump
Yeah,
on
because
relatively
they
quickly.
definitely do have some talented players and positions, but it comes from size. You know, Ludwig is prior to Tebbs is top five, not the fifth best linebacker in Europe.
Lies. No, it's blind rankings,
He's
everyone,
not the fifth
please.
best linebacker in Europe. He is excellent. He's around the 102 spot, wherever you want to put him. In the top three is fine by my opinion. But he is more that tweener. He's about 6 foot, 220, so he's on the slightly smaller side for a linebacker, especially if you're playing outside. He is quick and offers a good coverage ability. But if he's playing, Sam or Will, you need someone on the other side of that as well that's going to be able to make an impact. We'll see what they do with this position because linebacker is, again, a difficult position to create in Europe. But that will be the Nordic Storm moving on to the next signing. Moving on to the next one, Frankfurt Galaxy. This is a bit of an older signing, but we just wanted to call it back for it. We didn't give enough flowers to some of the signers pre EFA Playbook, so we're just circling back just to get a couple of them before we have the season starting, just to give you guys a bit more information on each player. Mason Chambers is one of them, right? When we see Americans come in, we go, "Oh my goodness, let's have a look at these guys." There's some players that we more familiar with. Say when Aaron Jackson comes back, we're like, oh my God, it's Aaron Jackson. Say when uh, like Luke Glenner at safety, everyone knows who he is. When a new American comes in, they either get a bunch of attention, like I remember Chris and I think Tut from a couple of seasons ago with the Stuttgart Surge for Auburn, or they get not very much attention. I feel like Mason has been maybe in the latter. I don't feel like he should be. I feel like he's a bit of an underappreciated. Matt Bressington's favorite word of the day, underappreciated. Played at University of Incarnate Word, home of Cam Ward and Alex Jenkins, a former IPP player. He was big for them. He was a big tackler at the safety position, all over the field. Comes down to the box really well. Aggressive, good trigger. Surprise, like underappreciated again, but decent ball skills. I don't think he's a unbelievable ball player in terms of his ability to create turnovers, but he has tackling ability. It's going to be really helpful with reinforcing the Frankfurt Galaxy front seven. What do you think about, because the Galaxy have become kind of I was going to say martyrs because they've been really pushing two American defensive backs, but they've not really won very much with American defensive backs. How do you see, because this is a whole discussion for itself, but like the focus on American defensive backs for teams in the EFA, because every single team, I think maybe bar one, has gone for two American defensive backs.
I mean, it's par for the course now that when on defense you're likely to be having two defensive backs. The only thing is with Frankfurt, I feel that as much as they have got good DBs, Rodion as well. You've got Simon Otto as well. I think that it's decent, but they're not blowing anyone's socks off. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like the Nordic Storm and the Munich Ravens, for just two, they are blowing people's socks off. It's like, oh my god, can you fathom that we have got this? But Mason Chambers and Jalen Clay, I do think are going to do well, but they're just sort of not. They're not blowing my socks off. I'm not. I'm not jumping up and down, going, this is mental. It's like, yeah, it's good, and they'll do a job and they'll do it well. But I think with that, it lends itself to the DB position at Frankfurt to prove themselves. If you have these players that are underappreciated, potentially they're going to get targeted more. Their receivers are going to get targeted more, which would then facilitate them to have breakout seasons and to really put stats on the board, which is what I think is likely to happen with the Frankfurt
Yeah, because
Galaxy
it's
DBs.
two new American players. and I think that is why people are a little bit more hesitant to talk about them because, like I said before, when you have more familiar names, it's easy to recall information. Usually, they'll have like an
Yeah.
American defensive back that's been there for a little while, and maybe they bring in a new guy, and then that guy can learn from the more established veteran. It's not too dissimilar to the NFL, but like with Clay and Chambers both being rookies in the European space, it could be a difficult transition defensively. I made a whole video about why American quarterbacks struggle in Europe, culture shock, uh, play style, play speed, etc., etc., etc. Go and watch the video. It's hard for the two of those guys to transition at the same time without like a positional mentor. Because you look at that quarterback still, even Frankfurt Galaxy again, not someone who has been in Europe ever, another European rookie. And you look at Brevin Easton, he spent half a season here. Like, so the American locker room of that team is very inexperienced when it comes to Europe. And that is something that concerns me. Does that concern you as well?
It does. It does. It puts the Frankfurt Galaxy in a position where obviously like the ceiling is high for them. I think, every team, I'd say, bar two, obviously everyone can win the championship right now. It's April. Right now everyone is on level pegging to be competing for the EFA championship. But I think that the like American experiment that all of these teams have to undergo going into the season and playing out, I think that the one that worries me the most is Frankfurt, because again, all these players are good, but it's you know first time. Brevin 6 games. It's like there's not the experienced American hand, and that is either going to lead to me and you sitting here with egg on our face, going, "Well, the Galaxy are just simply amazing," or it's gonna not crash and burn, but it's going to lead to some X's and O's potentially misfiring at the Galaxy. I'd sort of lean more towards it working, if I'm completely honest. But yeah, it is a concern for me.
Got some team needs for them as well. Defensive end, we look at their roster at the moment. They got some decent players. Leander Strathman is a good player that's come from the Surge. You've got Mark Hansi Horsepower boy in the interior. They got Chris Malumba, who's an excellent interior, and they got Lara Perez as well, who's another nice interior guy. They lack the edge rushers. They lack a pure pass rusher. They lack someone who's going to be dominant off the edge and creating pressures from the outside, which I think is an important factor. Same thing, the outside linebacker. They've got inside covered. They've got good players like Toby Taylor, Louis Achant, Sebastian Gauthier. I'm not as impressed by their outside linebacker talent. Corner, great. You've got Rodion, excellent European. Now you need someone who's going to play on the other side. I'm still not impressed with the number 2 corner they have. I need to see more from that position. And then the last one, Tebs, I feel like you're going to be a little bit mad at me. I don't want you to be mad at me. I don't want you to be displeased and we have some kind of messy breakup and I need to go find another co-host who's going to be able to deal with these takes because Gerald Almeln, I love him. I love him. I think he can be a number 1 back. Injuries.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
Leave
a
it there.
Liverpool stop. There's a comma. A little
No,
comma. Injuries or a semicolon. I'm not sure what
no,
grammatically it would be.
no, no.
He gets injured a lot, man. He does. And I love him. I think he's a fantastic player, but having a backup running back who is a solid quality would be good. Gerald has never been a number 1 running back for a team. He's always shared carries or he's been hurt midway through the season. I think they need another guy who can come in and be a bit of a tempo changer.
Nonsense. So nonsense, lies, hypocrisy,
Propaganda?
all of
Yeah.
it. Um,
Mm.
Propaganda.
Deception? Mm.
Disgusting. This honestly. No, I was about to say something else there. No. I wish that I could sit here as the president and the president of the Amel fan club. As I've said, from the start of the EFA Playbook, I've said that he's going to be my guy to watch this season, and we are going to have him on. I'm just going to say we are having him on. It's as cut and dry as that. And will I cry? Who knows? But I can't sit here and say that I don't somewhat agree. I obviously Aaron has never been the number one running back. He has had good numbers, and we have spoken about fumbles are a concern, injuries are a concern. I would also like to see the Galaxy pick up another exciting running back. It it seems to be that Amon's very good at what he's very good at. Do you know what I mean? And I think that there's space for another running back to come in and complement the Frankfurt Galaxy
Yeah,
offense.
because he's kind of an east-west guy, right? He's not running north-south between it. He's running outside the tackles. And when you've got Steven Nielsen and Luka Jericho, who are two of the best offensive tackles in Europe, it would be wise to use those outside. Less, I don't have any numbers on this one, but I feel like you're less likely to get injured going outside rather than dealing with the 300-pound bodies in the middle. So I think potentially they'll use outside game. They're going to use a lot of quick, short passing options and play action. So I think there's going to be a really fun, dynamic offense in this one. I'm expecting him to see a lot more of a receiver value in this team. But yeah, I'm excited to see this one as well. Finally, the last signing center piece for this one is Marco Ilic, brother of Milos Ilic, who's also playing for Prague Lions. Marco, another safety, both of them are Danish. Marco is a hard player to evaluate, and I'm going to give you a bit of I'm going to give a bit of speculation on what I think the Paris Musketeers could be doing with this pickup. He, of course, isn't he? He hasn't had much experience in the ELF last season. He just spent time with the Helvetic Mercenaries. It's the Helvetic Mercenaries. Really hard to get player evaluations done on a team that was that much of an atrocity. So it's hard really to evaluate that tape. However, you would expect more of an impact from him even playing in 6 games. Now the stats are a little bit wayward. He might just appear in 6 games. He might not have played every single second, but 9 tackles in 6 games is not excellent. 6'4" though, 205-pound frame. That's a big dude. That's a big dude. And when you've got Yanni Godfrey and Suleiman Karamoko, who are homegrown safeties, I'm expecting one of them, probably if I was going to guess Yanni, or Marco to move into a nickel role, a big nickel, because I think that's what they're going to do with Mace in the Nordic Storm. I'm expecting them to do that with him as well. I think they'll be playing a lot of diamond, nut, nickel packages. I think we're going to have Marco or Yanni. Probably a bit interchangeable. If it's more of a run impact, you're probably going to want Marco, who's a bit bigger. If it's a pass down, you're probably going to want Yanni, who's just such an excellent ball player. What do you think about this one? Getting an E player that didn't necessarily have the statistical output that you would expect from a player put with so much value in terms of a roster building perspective.
Sometimes for me, you've just got to look at the intangibles of the player, and I know that that's very, very stereotypical, but 6'4", the bloke is long. The bloke is long, and that is something that is, you know, a something that you want, something that you need, and I think that with the DBs at Paris and the safeties at Paris, it's already fairly decent. I don't think it hurts. I'll put it just like that. I don't think it hurts to have someone long, and I'm all for someone who may not have had the success in the prior seasons to come to, let's be real, a absolutely stacked Paris Musketeers team, just to see what he can do. Obviously, they've seen something they like in Marco Ilic, and I'm looking forward to see what he does no matter where he plays. If someone is coming off a situation like being in Helvetic, um, for me it's the same as looking at Jai Jackson over at Tyrol. If they're coming out of situations that were less than ideal last year, and they're on these teams that you know with how condensed the league is, the talent is also condensed. And if you're on an EFA team, congratulations, you are one of the best in Europe, whether or not you're starting or whether or not you're a depth player. So yeah, for me, it's I can understand why. and it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. But I personally think this is a big man,
Yeah,
and
I
that's
like
why.
it. My team needs offensive line. I like the center signing of Ningami. I think he's a really solid player. They could play for them. Madrid Bravos center. I've still got tackle and guard. I'm sure that's going to annoy Coach Book, me and him, I like him a lot. We've talked. He's one of the best coaches and best GMs we have in all of Europe. But I'm struggling to see the vision with the offensive line a little bit. Maybe that's on me, but it's all French except for Ningami, who's going to be playing in the middle. There are some good pieces I can see at the guard positions. They've got quite, when you talk about continuity, they have a lot of guys that are returning back with the Paris Musketeers team this season. But they kind of seem the last couple of years to be rotating offensive tackles. Over the last, we had Polly Sacramento, we had Keanu Ebanks, we had the big Danish dude last year whose name I'm forgetting. They've had a lot of guys kind of cycle through the offensive tackle positions, and they've had success. Polly Sacramento is one of my favorite players from Brazil ever. Congratulations on the new baby as well, Polly. Very well done. And then Keanu as well. We all know how good he is. He's an excellent player. Do I want a bit of reinforcement? I just think it could be better. They've got, I believe, how many imports they got? They got all their imports are filled though, so that this is going to be their starting unit unless they find some French gems. What do you think?
I think that as someone who is Mr. European football, I think that you just aren't seeing the vision, and that's mad. That I think that you specifically, Matt Bressington, you're not seeing the vision here. I like it as someone who played line myself. It is tough, but it's why not? Why not have a position where it's predominantly your countries, like your country's players? Obviously, one import. I do have faith in Book, cut and dry, simple as that. He's not going to put an O line together, especially with as much as Zach Edwards can move. I'm sure that he doesn't want to be moving unless he's really, really certain. He wants to keep that jersey laundry bill nice and low. So yeah, I don't. I'm not as worried about it as you are. Obviously, we're going to see because we do have some very elite D line and linebackers who are going to be testing them, and I'm sure the Paris Musketeers are very, very aware of that fact. But I'm not as worried about it. In fact, I do like it, and it's going to be interesting to see how it does. If it all fails, that's fine. The experiment of the all French, well, the predominantly French offensive line, why not test it out? Because we obviously see that imports, especially imports, are going to come and play on the line. Why not spread them around a bit more and have a position that is predominantly
Because here's where I might be
French?
wrong. I might be wrong. I might be wrong. Maybe unlikely, but I might be wrong. They got Marcus Scheibel, who was a very very good block and tight end. And their offense is clearly not an offense that's going to be a 5-step drop back kind of team. They're not going to be gaining, like Zach Edwards is not going to be gaining a lot of depth. He's going to be getting the ball out fast. So you could argue you want the interior line to hold up for that 1-step, 2-step, maybe drop backs, and then hit a wide open Austin Mitchell or Hugo Tekadam or take your pick because they have so many speedy receivers. So that's what I think could be thing, but I've got another couple weaknesses. Routes to linebacker, they've kind of been a bit light with their signings at the moment. Dejan Gomez, of course, played in the middle, but they needed some outside talent. And then defensive end, they've got, again, good pieces like Jack Lau, more of a 3. He's been moving kind of more inside. Longer he's been with Paris. He's been there for, 3 years now, but he's kind of just been moving more inside the line. Mamadou Sai is just an incredible player. Alexi is good. I don't think he's as good as Azan, who they had last year, but he's solid. Stanley Zarek is their kind of like main guy when it comes to come off the edge. So I just see a little bit more pass rush talent from them, and I think they could be in a really good position. That will wrap up our science center. Let's move on to some gems tabs because we've talked all about the teams, and I want to see some gems.
So we're going to get into our gems series where me and Matt are going to pick some players that we don't think are being spoken about enough and give them their just desserts. And we're also going to be looking at these players to see how they do once the season starts. I am going first, and I'm firstly heading to the Nordic Storm at the linebacker position. And as much as the Nordic Storm fan base may think that I dislike Myron, I don't. It's just the blind rankings. Please, please, just it's the blind rankings. I've gone for another linebacker out there, Hugo Dyrendal. Watching his tape, I love the way that he plays. He gets straight through the line. We obviously did speak earlier about the outside linebacker position at the Nordic Storm. I do think that's going to be a problem. However, at the inside linebacker position, I think Myron and Dyrendal have it covered. It's his third year playing pro football, playing at the Frankfurt Galaxy in 2024 and the Nordic Storm in 2025. He was a second team All Star in 2024 and he was a first team All Star in 2025. He's fast and he's patient. Those are two of the absolutely defining characteristics of an outstanding linebacker. He had a great season last year, 61 solo tackles, 7 TFLs in 11 games played. And I'm just going to let you in on an absolutely spectacular game he had against the Rhine Fire, 17 tackles, 1 sack, 2 TFLs against a very stacked Rhine Fire team from last season. He's played all over the place, a former Dresden Monarch, an Anaconda Dolphin, as you can see in that way, not this way, that way. I think that with Myron and Dyrendal, I think that the Nordic Storm inside linebacker position is going to be a treacherous place to be if you are a wide receiver or a running back for anyone not called the Nordic Storm. Now it's going to be slightly left field here for me. I'm going with a kicker, and that kicker is from the Paris Musketeers. I'm going with Dean Faithful. I'm a guy who loves a football narrative, who loves a football story, and Dean Faithful has certainly got a tale that is potentially film worthy. We're going to get into it. So, college, he played football, or as what I call it, at Florida Tech for the Panthers. And you're saying, hey, how did he get into American football? Well, he started playing D2 football at CSU Puebla at 34 years old. This is what we're dealing with here. He was 34 when he started playing American football at the college level. Out there, he went 7 for 12 on field goals, scored 20 extra points. It was, let's be honest, pretty good. But then the story doesn't quite end there. At 36 years old, he went to the Edmonton Elks of the CFL, had success out there. He's now on Paris at 38 years old. It's a great story, and I've spoken to Dean, and hopefully we're going to have him on the show to sort of wrap us in this story. But I'm excited to see what he can do at the kicking position in Paris. We've seen it over the last few years that the kicker is an absolutely vital role. We know this, and some teams have fell short of the mark. And I don't think that Dean Faithful is going to be one of those players that goes down in history as not being able to be clutch. I'm excited to see what he can do for Paris. I'm excited to have him on at some point. I'm excited to see this almost movie-esque story write its next chapter. Now, for my third and final one, this one also is a bit left field considering that he is a starting quarterback in the EFA this season. I don't think he's getting spoken about enough. And as I said with Dean Faithful, I love a story. And I think a comeback story, in essence, is on the cards here for Stephen Krajewski of Raiders Tirol. We know the story. He was at UConn, prestigious college over in the States, played for them for 3 years, and then transferred to Wagner, a school with, let's be real, the facilities weren't as what he was expecting over in Connecticut. I did listen to an interview that Stephen did a few years ago, and he did speak about how he was able to sort of thrive under the different situations moving from UConn to Wagner. If you look at the stats in his 2023 campaign with the Wagner Seahawks, the big one that jumps out is that he was sacked 20 times, still managing to get over 1,600 yards and 14 touchdowns. I think that this is the absolute perfect opportunity to have a comeback season. We know that this man can thrive under adversity. I'm not saying that he's going to have it at Raiders to roll. However, they've not signed much of their line yet. Yet being the key word there. I'm all for a comeback story, and I'm going to be paying attention to Stephen Krajewski's season just a little bit more because I want to see this guy do well and hopefully live up to his potential.
Tebbs says he likes a story. He said he likes a narrative. I'm a guy that likes development. And for me, there's not very many other players that can speak to development as much as Enrico. He came in a rookie season in 2024 with the Galaxy, was a starting safety on that team, by the way. Kind of got overshadowed by other rookies that were in that class because he didn't like pop off. He still got 55 tackles in his first season, got an interception in the TFL. Second year, he stepped up, 62 tackles, career high, more solo tackles than any other year. He got a sack this year, more TFLs than he did last year. Another interception. He got a fumble recovery for a touchdown. This is development of a young player that we're starting to see. He's 6'2", just a shade under 200 pounds, and is only 23 years old. Enrico Trigoya, I think, is going to have a big impact in this team. I expect him to be starting week 1. Potentially in the nickel. I think maybe I talked a little bit more about big nickels or jumbo nickels, whatever you want to call them. Maybe he'll see more of that. Needs to be a bit quicker, a bit more explosive. He has a frame. He has the ability. I think he has a very, very high ceiling. I'm extremely excited to see him develop into year 3. My second one, another young guy that's developing extraordinarily well, is Joseph Darkwa, former Campbell and Temple University defensive tackle. Again, young dude. He's only in his early 20s, but he's 6'5", 300 pounds. You do not see very many guys that big move as fast as Darkwa does. He's an incredible athlete. I've heard through the Munich Ravens he's developing really nicely with his fundamentals and his technical ability. This is a Kentrell Ellison defense. We can expect to see players take a step up as soon as they go into his defense because he's such an excellent defensive coordinator. He might be the next Evans Yoruba. I don't say that very lightly. I'm a big Evans Yoruba fan. I think he could be the next Evans Yoruba if he develops as I expect him to be developing over the next couple of seasons. He came in late last year, didn't get a full season, but still put a little bit on tape. 28 tackles, 3 sacks, by the way, which is pretty impressive for an interior D lineman, however way you put it. But it says 5 PBUs. This is a guy that affects the pass at the line of scrimmage, and that is not something that a ton of defensive tackles can do. He has incredible length. He can bat down the balls. He can affect the run. He can affect the pass. Joseph Darkwa is one of my favorite defensive tackles in all of Europe right now. My final gem is Matthias Bieli. If you watched me last season, you'll know I was believing in him all season. That was the whole thing. It sounds really cringe, but that was what we were saying when he came onto the field. He has some big plays. He's still a new young guy again, but he's 6'2" plus, about 200 pounds. There's not a lot of outside receivers that Prague have. They have a ton of speed and a ton of weapons, but I think he's going to be a bigger impact this year inside Fred Armstrong's offense. He only had 319 yards last season, 5 touchdowns with 20 catches. But when you consider that he's like a young receiver that's just breaking into the first team this year, I think that speaks a lot. He's 20. He's just turned 20, which is huge. To have a year of experience when he was 19 is incredible. To score 5 touchdowns. When you look at the games, sure, he's not doing it against the most illustrious of teams last season. He wasn't putting up crazy numbers against any of the better teams, but he still put up 58 yards and a touchdown against the Panthers. He still put up 2 touchdowns against Mercenaries. I'm expecting him to put more numbers up this season. I'm expecting him to be more of a deep threat, more of a sideline guy, an escape option potentially. He's a pretty decent possession receiver for Jalen Henderson this season. I think he's going to see a statistical step up, maybe into that 450 range for Matthias Bieli. And that wraps up today's EFA Playbook. Thank you guys for tuning in today. This was a really fun one. We did a bunch of research for this one. It was good to get into the depths. I'd like to do this again, potentially for some rookie of the year players or something like that when we get into it. Let us know what you think. This was great. I'd not gonna lie, this was like a scout stream for me. I've been Matt Bressington, that's been Chris Tebbutt. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.